I still think it's very relationship driven. I think it's really more about the relationships than it is about the back end. You want to know, you can call somebody and have a live person on the other end, and a lot of times you don't get that. I definitely feel like it's the relationships that MSPs should really be focused on, in terms of growth and being a resource and whatnot. I think that's really primarily what it should be. We're more customer service focused, but you don't see that a lot now in this MSP space. It's everything's automated, everything is AI. But it's really hard to maintain that core value of customer service.
Welcome back to the MSP Pipeline. I'm your host, Kyle First. In today's episode, we've got Dan and Sammi Taplitz, the co-founders of Right Click Solutions. They've built a business together from the ground up, starting out of their home, raising a family at the same time, while also figuring out operations, sales, hiring. Today, they've built Right Click Solutions into an 18-person team, carved out a strong position in the nonprofit space, and grown the business largely through reputation and relationships. Dan, Sammi, really excited to have you both on today. Thank you for being here.
Well, we appreciate the opportunity to speak to you today.
Thank you. Well, listen, let's start from the beginning, right? How did you both end up in the IT world in the first place?
Sammi, you want to start or should I start?
You can start.
I'll start, Kyle. So very quick little story. When I was about 10 years old or so, my mom brought home a $5,000 computer. And what did I do? I decided to take the whole thing apart. She's like, what? But I was able to put it all back together, and it all worked, Kyle. So I knew I was into something way back when I was 10. And then I went off to college and got my degree and a minor in computer science. And then I went into the IT world in corporate America, working for ABC Television, American International Group, still in the computer field. So I know I've always surrounded myself with computers, and then eventually with Sammi will share how he actually opened up the doors in 2006 with Right Click. But my entire background has revolved around the computer industry.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So I've always had a technical interest. But my background is in fashion merchandising and business. Made my way around the fashion industry, ended up in sales, and came upon an opportunity where there was a Gen Y company that did catalog business, but they had web properties that they were looking to do ad sales and marketing. So this opportunity came up. I jumped on it because I love, I do love technology, and I was very interested in the demographic, also in learning web properties in the back end. So got involved in interactive advertising and marketing.
Okay.
So I managed several web platforms in the Gen Y space, including, College Ave. There were Alloy Inc. It was at the time, then it turned into 360 Youth. I had managed all of the advertising placement on all of their web properties. So meeting the advertisers and advertising agencies goals for, making impressions and click-throughs and tracking and analytics. So that's how I got into that. And then we had an opportunity where we started, Dan was working with a small software sales firm that specialized in nonprofit software. And he started the IT division there. It was
a little bit like a match made in heaven, where the owner of the organization was selling the accounting software. And then her clients were saying, hey, can you help me with my computers? And she said, I know accounting, I don't know computers. So through mutual, life, as you know, is about relationships, right, Kyle? So through a mutual relationship, I started working with Jackie, and I started she introduced me to her customers, and they were now loving she was getting like the full package. She was getting the accounting, she was getting the IT. And then after a couple of years, I was like the chief, the bottle washer, the cook, the marketing person. But she was dedicating still all of her resources towards the accounting.
Okay.
So we had a mutual agreement. She said, Dan, I can't really support you anymore. I really want to continue to focus on what I'm really good at, right?
Yeah.
And that's what we've all learned in life. Let's stay in our lane. Let's stay what we're really good at and what we're experts in. So we made a mutual agreement that she said, do you want an opportunity to start your own business?
Yeah.
And Sammi and I were always thinking about it. My mom was an entrepreneur. Sammy's dad is an entrepreneur. So we said, you know what? If we're going to do it, let's try it now. I could always go back to corporate America, Kyle. So we had an opportunity in 2006 to hit the ground running. And 20 years later, here we are.
I love it. That's awesome for you guys. You know, you left a stable situation, it seems like, and started your own company. What did that decision really feel like at that time? Did it feel exciting, risky, a little bit of both?
Both, definitely.
Yeah, it was definitely a little bit of both, right? Starting your life out with, like you said, when I was working for corporate America, right? I knew my paycheck every week.
Yep.
Had a good social environment. So now we're doing construction in our house. Our first child is born. We don't really have a paycheck, but at the same time, the excitement of it to see what we can do with the small little opportunity that we had, in the back of my head, I said, you know what? I can always go back. I can always go back to corporate America. Mm-hmm. But deep down, I knew there was some drive and desire that I have to, let's see if we can make this work. And we took that leap, that good leap of faith that sometimes you need to do in life. And here we are.
I love it. And, you know, what did those first, few months actually look like? You know, Sammi, you're running marketing, operations, billing. How did it feel?
It was chaotic.
Yep.
I will say, I honestly don't know how we did it. I did, like you said, I mean, when Dan said we were having construction on our house, so I was answering phones, you'd hear saws in the background, and my daughter, Mara, was just born, and I had my son who was 2 years old. So it was just, I don't know, I was out of my mind. I was out of my mind, but I was like, you know what, we can do this. Like, we can make this work. And that was the right time. So,
and I think the key to that message, Kyle, is the we part, right? Because a lot of people, husband, wife in this case, say, I can't work with my wife. Mm-hmm. And we've made it work, and we've made it work successfully for 20 plus years. So being much that the Chamber of Commerce in Mount Kisco this year is honoring Sammi and myself as the Citizens of the Year in Mount Kisco. So,
nice.
And Sammy's like, well, but they're honoring you, Dan. I said, no, Sammi, they're honoring me. But she said, well, you're the face of the business. I said, well, the reality is, and people keep saying this to Sammi, this has been a team effort, Kyle. And even though Sammy's not out there, and because she's sort of behind the scenes, if she wasn't doing everything that she was doing behind the scenes to keep the business stable, I wouldn't be able to go out to do what I do. So when she says the we, it truly means the we in Right Click, and that's what makes our entire team. But it really starts with this person to my left or your right, and that's what makes us a great company or a great organization.
That's awesome. And congratulations on that, guys. That's a great achievement. And, Dan, you're trying to bring in business, right? So when you started up, did you feel like you had a plan, or were you just figuring out day to day?
A little bit of both.
Okay.
So when we started in 2006, we had a core of the nonprofits. So and for several different reasons, we really enjoy the nonprofit sector. So we did definitely have a little bit of plan on still targeting the nonprofit sector for various different reasons, right? They have to budget, they have to plan. We can support a mission. So it sort of gives you that good feel like we're helping achieve their goal while keeping their costs down, because they're obviously a little more cost conscious than the small business owner. So we did have that plan, but at the same time, Sammi said sometimes it was a little chaotic. But at the same time, we did have desire to grow. So in 2008, we hired our first employee, and I don't think we ever really looked back after that point.
That's awesome. And is there another industry that you guys are focusing on compared to the nonprofit space?
Sammy?
Well, we service currently 30 different industries,
Okay.
but because we're small business and nonprofit focused, small businesses covers, so many different industries.
Yeah.
But we have sanitation companies, we have real estate companies, CPAs, lawyers, like it runs the gamut, but our biggest thing is really just wanting to help small businesses to grow as they've helped us grow. So,
Of course. That's awesome. And, starting a business is one thing, keeping it going is another. What was the hardest part about those early years?
I think it's not just about, believe it or not, it's harder today than the earlier years, because the thing that our premise, well, Sammy will always say, reminds us that our tagline is simplifying technology. But really, today, the larger you grow, the harder it is to keep that same mindset of that customer service.
Yeah.
And that's what I think really sets us apart is, and I said this in our management meeting this week, the bigger vendors that we work with, Kyle, the bigger they get, it's harder for them to sort of keep the processes in place. And that's what our model has always been. I never want a customer who's been with us 25 plus years to say, hey, Dan, 20 years ago, you were great. You were 4 people.
Yep.
Today, you're 18. Not so great, but we are fortunate to still keep that same white glove customer service focused model approach. So,
of course. Yeah, I was going to say, as things started to grow, what broke first? Like, was it the communication, the processes, the clients?
I mean, you hear it all the time, right? You need to fail to succeed.
Yep.
So of course there's going to be challenges there's always going to be leaps and bounds and bumps in the road. But if you stay on your core focus on that customer service, which is really what we've stayed on, and it's all about the customer, right? Explaining things to customers. And that's what we've even when we hire people for people, because we can train people on their technology. It's really hard to train people on being a good person and being there and explaining things. Because to a lot of people, Kyle, technology, you look at them and they're like, you lost me. But our people are people, and they truly explain and break it down. Again, as Sammy said, we keep it simple for our clients.
Yeah, that's awesome. And customers and clients, the relationship is the most important part, right? So, getting into growth, because this is where most MSPs get stuck, right? How did you get your first real customers, actually?
Well, this was also when Dan was working in that software sales company that he started the IT division. And as he said, it was very nonprofit driven. And when we started our business, we fortunately were able to bring on a lot of those clients that he had established the relationships with already. So that hit the ground running. We knew that we wanted a focus on customer service and just being a resource, being that, like, educating, being a resource. The early years were, like you said, more break fix.
Yep.
We knew we didn't want to necessarily focus on that, and having a better plan so that there wasn't so much break fix.
Yeah, of course.
Was what we were working towards. But the early years, that was challenging because, whatever comes in is what we're taking,
Yes.
It's like, we had bills, but as we established ourselves and our relationships with our clients, they really rely on us as a resource for them, for their technology. So it's been a slow and steady growth of our business, but with our clients. So, understanding their needs and how we can help them.
And I think Sammy said a couple key words there, Kyle, right? The relationships that we know is really important, no matter what you do in life, in business, in personal life, the relationships. And that's where it starts. The community, right?
Mhm.
Surround yourself with good people, and inherently it's going to have that full circle effect to you.
Of course.
So, and that's what we're really encourage all of our staff to is join, build a relationship, get involved with the community.
Mhm.
It's going to have a full circle. And like I said before, surround yourself with like-minded people. And inherently you're going to succeed. I promise you that.
Yeah, of course. And like, is there a certain point where, everything started to feel consistent?
It's, there's always, I say this all the time in our business, there's things that we could always do to improve, right? If you don't look at how do you improve your business is not going to improve. So Sammy and a couple of people from our team are really detailed and process oriented. So the consistency is always, again, been the customer service, but it always is about not climbing up the hill in a struggle, right? What do we do to climb to make our organization better for ourselves, for our internal staff, and for our customers too?
Yeah, that's awesome. And it's great to do that. And I know, and like going back to the local community, you spent a lot of time in the local community. How much of your growth came from just being in the right room?
It's interesting, Kyle, because some people actually ask me, I've been on the board of the chamber for 15, 20 years. I've been on the fire department. I get involved, but I got involved not to because I simply enjoy it. So I think if you are not happy with what you do in life, it's going to be a struggle. So I joined these different organizations really because I enjoy it. Inherently, life is about having that full circle effect.
Of course.
If you're happy with what you do at work or what you do for the community, you're going to be happy when you go to work. So, indirectly, it absolutely has affected our business in a positive way.
Of course. Yeah. And, I speak to a lot of people and like my day's so busy, and I love when my day is busy. I'm like, I at least know I'm doing something that makes me happy at the end of the day. Right. So getting into today, what does business development actually look like? Dan, you're still heavily involved in the sales. What are you doing day to day?
So we've said it numerous times, it's about the relationships, Kyle. So my day to day is continue to build tighter relationships with even my staff. It's really important to me to have a consistent staff, right? You have a consistent, happy staff, you're going to have a consistent, happy customer base. So if I can continue to build my relationships with my team in our organization, then we're going to have a consistent team of clients or core clients, right? And continue to grow that. So it starts right at home, in our office, and then it builds to the relationships and everything around it. So I continue to, of course, build new relationships, even with our current clients, right? Because we all know it's really hard to get new clients, but it's pretty easy to lose clients. So it starts by continuing to build a strong relationships with our clients and let them know, even though you've been with us for 20 years, we're still going to be with you. And this is why we're going to continue to keep things better for you, better customer service. We all know it's a scary world in cybersecurity. And this is why we explain to them how we're going to make their life easier, make it better and more secure. And it really starts with the relationships there. Because if our relationships are strong with our customers, they're going to say, hey, Dan, I have a friend who owns another business, right, who wants to also, it's going to make them look good. And if you don't ask, you're not going to get to, Kyle.
You got to always ask a question. Right?
Yeah.
So, Sammy, on the marketing side, how are you supporting that growth? What are you doing different than Dan might be doing?
I mean, it's very collaborative, but, I think the MSP space has evolved tremendously. However, our core values have always been, customer service, being a resource, educating, which I think it's kind of shifting out of the MSP space, and not really that personal touch where things are more automated. You have AI. But on the marketing side, I think it's important to understand the needs of your client base. So it's identifying like that need and showing them that there is a resource out
Yeah.
there for them. So I think, you know, marketing is so complex, and we haven't really had to do a lot of heavy marketing. And I think I mentioned this to you. A lot of our marketing efforts have been very organic to date, but now as we grow, as our clients grow, we're realizing, you know, and in order to support on a customer service level, we're needing to shift a little in our marketing efforts. And you do have a lot of AI resources that are out there, but it can be scary. But we find that it's our job to take away that fear from cybersecurity, from, you know, from the AI world, which is like infiltrating.
A little crazy, right? It's a little crazy.
So, but on the same respect is there's some automation on the back end that I think will be helpful for us in order to us get our name out there and as a resource.
And I think if Sammy always says it, let's stick to our core values, Kyle. You stick to your core values, complement that with the latest and greatest technology. And Sammy maybe mentioned it before, but last year, the year before, we did a cyber conference, right? Keeping our clients, we want to be the experts in our field, and inherently, that's going to build a relationship, right? I may not need Right Click today, but I know they're experts, and when the time is right, we're going to pick up the phone, and they know they're there for us. So let's stick to our core values. Let's complement that with the technology and our mission and our goal, and inherently, we're going to continue to grow.
Yeah, of course. And I love that. And it's very important. But like, just a random question. Do you think MSPs rely too much on referrals and, you know, not enough about building a pipeline or, you know, getting some salespeople on their team?
Various different factors could answer that question, right? You always have to stuff. You can't, like, contractors typically, right, do job to job to job to job, right? They don't look for that next job down the road. Just a stereotypical contractor. But as an MSP, I think we absolutely have to have stuff in the pipeline. We are all about our customers today, but at the same time, if you want to grow, now some MSPs maybe don't have the desire to grow, and they're happy with their core 10 or 20 or 30 clients, whatever they have. But if you have the desire to grow, you absolutely have to have some stuff down the road to help you continue to grow. But you never want to lose your focus on the clients that got you to that point. So focus on those clients, have stuff in the pipeline, and then inherently you're going to continue to increase your margins.
Yeah, of course. And like, how are you guys building out a pipeline? Do you guys currently have a sales team doing some, you know, cold calling or anything like that for you guys?
A couple different avenues that we go, Kyle. Sammy mentioned I'm in a peer group. So again, it's all about relationships. So I'm always open-minded. I'm going to talk to the other MSPs. What's in your pipeline, or how are you getting things in your pipeline? So for me, some MSPs are saying, nope, I don't want to talk to you, Dan, but we have a very open mind. Like, the more IT companies that I can speak to, the better. Even in my own neighborhood, there's a lot of business out there because there's a lot of clients who need support from organizations like us. So whether you're in the next town, whether you're in California, the more people that I can learn from, the better it's going to help, Kyle. So to answer your question, we're going to continue to build our relationships. It's going to get stuff in our pipeline. We're going to learn from other MSPs. We're going to continue to be in organizations they call it the COIs, the center of influences, right? Surround yourself with those people who you can help grow their business, and then they're going to want to help you grow your business too.
Yeah. That's awesome. And, you know, let's get into the industry, right? Because the industry has been changing a lot since you guys specifically started. Early on, it was more of a break fix. And was there a certain point that you realized you needed to shift to more of a proactive model, would you say?
Sammy?
I mean, that's always been my focus. But of course, you know, when you're starting out, like I said before, you know, you're taking on what's coming in. But it is so important to have a proactive model so that you're not only servicing the client better, you're able to help them budget for any upcoming, like, unforeseen expenses that might be coming. We have a team on our admin side that's tracking renewals for firewalls and warranties and when they're coming due, so that our clients have a heads up when something is coming due and they know they need to budget for it.
Yeah.
We've now implemented over the past several years, which was always a dream of mine, was to have like annual reviews for our clients. And this is more on the maintenance side, not so much on those clients that are standalone clients. It's our, contracted clients that we've established. Okay, we're going to have an annual review. Get on Dan's calendar. They're going to review all your technology,
Yep.
Anything upcoming. And that was really important for me because it shows that proactive approach, but it keeps them on track. So like we're removing that break fix type mentality. So my computer's not working or it's slow. Well, if you're updating and maintaining these things regularly, you're not having that break fix anymore. Yep. It's really proactive, and your budget is better spent on the appropriate things than having to like fix problems. Because it becomes expensive, very expensive.
Yeah, and you're even minimizing risk, right, Kyle? If you're proactive, right. Let's say that I always say it's not it's not if you're gonna have a disaster, it's when you're gonna have a disaster. Inherently, those guys out there, the bad guys, the bad actors, they're always trying to be one step ahead.
Yeah.
So everybody sort of needs to plan for that disaster when it were to happen. So if you plan, absolutely, when that disaster happens, it could be a small disaster or it could be a major disaster where your data was all encrypted. If you planned, it's no problem. You may have a couple hours of downtime, but your business is not going to dramatically suffer. Your business can go on because unfortunately, a lot of businesses who don't plan, who get hit with a ransomware, a crypto wall virus or something like that, their business that they worked so hard to build, Kyle, in seconds is gone. So it's really important for all MSPs and all businesses to have a proactive approach instead of a reactive. Because if you have a reactive approach, it's going to have a negative effect.
Yeah, definitely. Completely understand where you guys come from. I'm happy you guys have one. So it's a good thing. And, moving towards recurring revenue is a big transition, right? What was the hardest thing about making that shift right there?
I think honestly, it's not that hard because again, it's about being proactive, right? If you're proactive, there's services that our customers really should have in place, protecting their identity, protecting their systems, right? And all those services do have, of course, a recurring revenue model. So because we're being proactive, we want to be proactive. We're going to complement that with the services which has that recurring revenue model. So the two absolutely go hand in hand, Kyle.
Yeah, awesome. And you've built a strong presence in the nonprofit space. What makes that industry really work for you guys? What excites you about it compared to I get the whole aspect of helping small businesses grow, but is there something else that makes Right Click Solutions feel good, I guess?
I think like we were saying, our core values is a really big driver of, helping others' missions become purposeful and
reality.
And yes, and reality. And I think, taking away their need for having to wrap their heads around that technology piece, but enabling them to serve their missions consistently that's really rewarding for us.
Yeah.
And it just so happened to be the nonprofit space, but it feels good. And they're so appreciative of what we do for them. and because we're, more of a proactive approach, we're helping them with their budgeting and grants and things like that, where, it's a little different. I mean, it's sort of the same, but different in terms of, where the funds are coming from, what between small business and nonprofits. But I just think it's very rewarding.
Yeah. And this time of year, if you work in the nonprofit world, this time of year, the April, the May, and the June is their gala season, right? So we're going to their galas to support and help them achieve their mission. And when you're sitting there, Kyle, and you see the organization who's supporting domestic violence, you're seeing the organization who's helping the homeless, providing food, feeding the hungry.
Yeah.
And you know that the small little things that we're doing as a company inherently are helping them achieve their mission, whatever their mission may be. It could be the immigration. It could be different goals that every organization has. We know, because what our goal is inherently, of course, is their technology. But if we're keeping their system safe and secure, inherently it's helping them provide that achievement towards their goal and their mission. So sitting there at those events, listening to the stories and hearing it, and seeing the money that they're able to raise, and then for their going back to their own cause, you talk about you could not have a much better feeling for us as an organization. It truly is rewarding.
That's truly amazing. And your business has grown tremendously since 2006, right? What was the hardest thing to actually scale?
That is, we're always looking to continue to scale.
Okay.
Right. And again, I think it goes back to what we said a couple times. It's never lose sight of the core values. So if you lose sight of that, you're not going to be able to scale. So keep on track, keep towards your mission.
I'd like to add to
Please
that
do.
Because it's been, I think one of the hardest things for us has been, we're a small business ourselves. So it's, everybody wears many hats. And I think now that we're growing, it's kind of, we're seeing the shift, and, you can't really sustain wearing so many hats for so long. And we believe in a work-life balance within our own company. I just think, so it's really looking at from a higher level to see what's working, what's not working, what are our current staff really good at, what do they love to do, that's where, so it's wrapping our heads around that and trying to implement that at the same time. So I think,
I think that's a good point, Sammy.
Yeah.
So the years ago, there's a gentleman that I met. His name is Grant Schneider, and he passed away a couple of years ago, but he told me a line, and I'll never forget it. If you find the good people, get them on the bus, Dan. And if you need to move their seat on the bus, that's okay. Maybe one is the driver, maybe one is better at the back of the bus, but keep them on that bus and find a better seat for them. It's going to absolutely help you continue to drive that bus forward.
I love that quote. That's awesome. But, I wouldn't say you guys are a small team. You're now at 18 people. So I would say, what changed from when you guys were, small team at 3 to 5 employees to now having 18? What changed?
I think Sammy said it. And that analogy about the bus is learning how to delegate properly.
Okay.
Learning how to delegate, learning how to say no, right? If it's not the right fit for us, we don't want to just take on business to take on new business, right? It's not, at the end of the day, the customer's not going to be happy, right? So we need to make sure the new business that we say yes to is truly the right fit for us, but almost more importantly, the right fit for them. Because if it's not, they're not going to be happy 6 months, a year, 2 years down the road. So we need to make sure it's a good fit from the very, very beginning. And that's what's, part of the reason why we're continuing to grow and really analyze every opportunity that comes across our plate. And if it's not the right fit, it's okay to say no. And that's what other people have continued to teach me. And even my own staff, and even my own 19-year-old or our 19-year-old daughter. You need to learn from everybody, whether you're 19 or whether you're 90.
Yeah.
I think you need to have an open mindset.
Of course. And is there something that you guys built internally to keep things running smoothly over the course of 20 years?
Where you're looking at process oriented person. So you talk about, and we all play our key roles here, Kyle. So there's a couple people in our organization who are detailed oriented, who are process focused minded. And that's what Sammi is. And that's what's really, I think that's really important. The larger you get, the more processes you have to have. And she will absolutely advocate for that every day of the week.
I love it. That's great. You know, you guys have been in this industry for a long time. What are you seeing right now that maybe newer MSPs might be missing?
To be the model for a lot of MSPs and even in this peer group that we're in, the messaging is one size fits all.
Yeah.
And as you can see, we don't, fit the mold in the sense of like one size fits all. It's all or nothing, we are gray people. We're not black and white. It's important to understand the needs of our clients, what their technology needs are, and not put them into a situation that is a one size fits all model, because it doesn't work for everybody. And so, that I think is what's really driving the MSP space. But as we keep, alluding to, is that we're more customer service focused, but you don't see that a lot now in this MSP space. It's everything's automated, or everything is AI, but it's really hard to maintain that core value of customer service when everybody else in the space is moving in a different direction. But
especially in the nonprofit space,
right?
And don't get me wrong, right? We pride ourselves in our customer service, but at the same time, we never want to let security suffer. So we're going to have a core set of services that our client, if you want to work with us, we need to make sure your data is being backed up. People think, oh yeah, I'm in the cloud, it gets backed up. That is a misnomer, Kyle. Or it gets backed up for more than X amount of days. So there's certain things that you need to have in place. If you don't, that's okay. We're not the right fit for you. And that's okay for both sides to say that. So, and then here's everything we offer, right? Because we know we don't want a customer saying, or having a review with their insurance company saying, do you do training for your staff? Well, you know what? I didn't know if I need training. So we will like our customers to know, here's everything that you could potentially add on to what we call the layered approach to technology, right? Almost like your house, where you have your alarm, you have your blocked on your windows, and you have certain things which provide it more secure. So it's the same thing in the MSP world. We provide a layered approach to helping with their technology. And there's certain things that you can layer on, and there's certain things you have to layer on. And that's what also makes us really different.
Yeah, that's awesome. I think it's great that you guys talk about, finding the right fit. Because if you don't like to work with someone that, at the end of the day, you don't want to work with people that don't make you feel good, or at least you hate working with them. So right now, where do you think the biggest opportunity is for the MSPs today?
I still think it's very relationship driven. I think it's really more about the relationships than it is about the back end. Even though the back end's important, of course, but because you want to make sure people's technology is safe and secure. But you also want to have that if something should happen, as Dan said, when it happens, you want to know you can call somebody and have a live person on the other end. And a lot of times you don't get that. And that's something we just feel is so important. So I definitely feel like it's the relationships that MSPs should really be focused on, in terms of growth and being a resource and whatnot. I think that's really primarily what it should be.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that's great. And I love building a great relationship with every person I meet. So completely understand that. And this is how we're going to finish today. If you could go back to the very beginning, right when you started Right Click Solutions, right, what would you tell yourselves and what advice would you give to a new MSP owner?
Go ahead, Sammy.
I would say breathe day by day. Stick to your core values.
I think it's also important. Don't forget about yourself, right? Why we're all here, Kyle, right? And that's the thing that I tell our own staff every day. And there's a reason, right? Before we even started this cast today, Kyle, we were talking about why get up at 4 a.m. in the morning, why you get up at 5 and 6 in the morning. Because if you can't take care of yourself, your mind and your body, your business is not going to take care of it. So you need to take care of yourself, then you can take care of the people, and then you can take care of the customers. So don't lose focus on yourself, because if you do, it's going to be really hard. Because I see people, because as Sammy always says, why are we working so hard, right? We're working so hard so we can provide for our families, provide for our staff. But if you're just working so hard and don't get to enjoy things while you're working hard, why are we here, Kyle? So absolutely, you need to enjoy things and take care of yourself. Because if you don't, you're not going to be around a long time.
Fair enough. Thank you, guys. Well, listen, Dan, Sammy, this was amazing. Thank you guys so much for being here today. And I really appreciate you guys sharing your story.
Thank you so much for having us.
Thank you, Kyle. Appreciate the couple minutes today.